Nós temos agora só mais 3 palestrantes, e ganhamos algum tempo agora. Eu gostaria rapidamente de chamar, e é muito interessante a pessoa que nós vamos chamar agora, porque o Brasil tem tido, principalmente pelo Ministério da Indústria, um relacionamento muito próximo do Reino Unido, inclusive para ações de livre comércio com o Reino Unido. Então, eu gostaria de chamar a Aline McGregor para fazer a sua apresentação, por favor, Aline.
Thank you very much. And I'd like to thank ABDI, CISP, CISA, and CESI for inviting me. And I was really interested to hear some of the presentations this morning, because there's quite a lot of parallels. The UK face a lot of the same challenges. So what I'm going to do is talk through about how the UK are addressing these challenges, what our policies and strategies are, and then perhaps identify some ways that we can work together to do that. So actually, I'll just go back. So I work for Innovate UK, and I'll explain a little bit about what Innovate UK is in a minute. So I'm going to introduce Innovate UK and the UK's industrial strategy, and then have a look about how the fourth industrial revolution technologies can address the national economic challenges, such as we've just heard about. Talk a little bit about some of the projects we've funded and how they address these issues. And then look at, going back at the industrial strategy, how it will support fourth industrial revolution in the UK, and then consider, potential for UK-Brazilian engagement. So to start with, I was very lucky in that 2 weeks ago, the UK announced their industrial strategy. So I can have a look at that and show it's quite interesting how a lot of it is based on fourth industrial revolution technology. So if you notice in the fourth bullet point going down, it talks about aiming to propel Britain to global leadership in industries of the future: artificial intelligence, big data, clean energy, and self-driving cars. So I'll go through some of the bits of this industrial strategy, and you can see how we're really focusing on these fourth industrial revolution technologies to really drive us forward. So just a little bit about the UK. I mean, we used to be a great manufacturing nation, and you know what? We still are. We are 9th in the world in our manufacturing output. That's 10% of the UK's GVA and 44% of our exports. We employ 2.7 million people, and most importantly, manufacturing contributes 68% of the business R&D. So when we're talking about R&D and innovation, we focus an awful lot on manufacturing because that's where it happens. Right? So as I said, I work for Innovate UK. We are the UK's innovation agency. That means we are a government agency, but we're very much arm's length. And we work to drive productivity and growth of the UK and to make a commercial success. And we aim to help the UK be a competitive, advanced economy. These are some of the statistics. Obviously, we use government money, so we need to make sure that what we do with that money actually provides value. So since we were formed in 2007, we have invested £2.2 billion. And then we've also had industry matching. So I don't know how this works. How does the little thing go? So the 3.7 billion total, including industry matching. We funded around 11,000 projects in that time, which has provided over 70,000 jobs. We also fund the Catapult network. Now, in the UK, we're not averse to stealing good ideas when we see them, and so we've taken this very much from the Fraunhofer network. And these Catapult centers are physical centers. They have equipment and trained people who can work with industry to really look at new ideas and new innovations and de-risk those ideas and innovations before they take them into their industry. And we have a number of different catapults. We have the high-value manufacturing catapult, which actually consists of 7 different centers. And that very much works together with manufacturing, obviously. But there's other ones like the digital catapult, which I work quite closely with to try and make sure that we get digital companies working together with manufacturing and understanding how we work together. And then there is the Satellite Applications Catapult, which again is very interesting because they're working with all the data that you get from satellites. How can we use that data to better address our industries? Mining, for instance, is a very big user of satellite applications. They tell you what's going on underneath the ground. So I've got a little slide to show you just how we get funded, because sometimes it's a bit hard to understand these things, and it might be useful for the Brazilian government to see how we do it. So the UK government funds Innovate UK. It also funds research councils. And come next April, we are actually going to be all one body called UK Research and Innovation. Now, Innovate UK is very much business focused. So we fund industry, fund projects by industry. As I said, we fund the catapults. We also fund networks. So we fund networks who are going to go out there and help connect people together, which is actually probably just as much value as providing funding to those industry projects. And we also fund some universities who work together on those projects. And the research councils, they mainly fund the universities, fund research going on at the universities, but of course they will fund industry when they're working together with those industries, and they fund a little bit about the catapults, especially because some of the catapults are based at universities. And then of course, industry also funds some of the catapults and university. So that's how it all works. It looks a little bit complicated, but it actually works very well. So now I want to just talk a little bit about the fourth industrial revolution and how it really makes a difference to addressing the challenges we talked earlier. So productivity is a big issue for us, and it's a big issue for Brazil, and it's definitely something that can be addressed by these technologies. Global competitiveness, also another major issue, and skills. So just as I noticed a little chart on the Brazil productivity, we've had the same kind of issue, not quite as much of a bell curve, but our productivity was increasing nicely in line. And then come the last recession, we didn't come back up again. We just kind of stayed level in terms of our productivity. So, and because of that, we find that we have lower productivity than most of the other G7 nations. So it's obviously an issue. It's something we have to address. And it's something that we think we can address with Fourth Industrial Revolution. Another issue, and I think it was mentioned here, is skills. Obviously, we're in a changing world, and the skills have to change with us. So we've identified that lack of digital skills is a very significant barrier. And to address that, we're looking to increase our investment and uptake in skills acquisition, identifying those future skills, because they're not the same as now. And we need to understand what they are and make sure we train both our children and, as I'll say in a minute, adults into those. Improve the provision and the access of that training. Create an agile skills development system, because we are constantly going to be changing. So we have to be dynamic, keep on understanding what's the new skills, and keep training. And then create a culture of lifelong learning and more visible career pathways for adults. Because as someone said, so we've been talking about the new manufacturing of 2025. Well, most of the people working in that plant in 2025 will have already left school. So you can't expect them to learn something at school. We have to teach them as they go along. So adult training is also just as important. I don't know how many of you have heard about Brexit. Maybe a few. So our Prime Minister has said, the decision to leave the European Union is not a decision to retreat from the world. In fact, we want to embrace it. We want to trade more, not less. And we must remain an open and a liberal market economy. So that opens up a lot of potential, a lot of opportunities. But of course, to increase trade, we need to compete globally. We need to compete on cost, on quality, and on speed of design, manufacture, and delivery. And I'll talk a bit about how we can do that using 4IR. And of course, we also need to open up global supply chains. So we need to both import and export globally. So again, lots of opportunity for UK-Brazil cooperation. And then we need to build on our strengths in AI, immersive technologies, 3D printing, and the other technologies. And we need to work a lot harder at driving the take-up and the application of those technologies. And I think that's an issue that Brazil has as well. So what's 4IR? I'm not going to go through. I think we've had quite a lot of presentations about it. Just that, that it's using all these different platform and digital tools, and it will make a big difference. So we've done a number of studies. As I say, productivity is a big issue in our country. So we've had a look at what can the fourth industrial revolution do. The Boston Consulting Group looked at it and they said, the UK could realize industrial efficiency gains of 25%, grow by up to 3%, etc. So huge gains to be had. And they also said that if we have a clear national strategy, we could get even more. And the Engineering Employers Federation also identified that this change, this revolution is going to be widespread. It's going to bring smarter supply chains, smarter production, and smarter products. We've recently done a review, an industrial digitization review, which gives a whole bunch of figures, but basically it's saying things like we can increase productivity, reduce downtime, we can reduce the inventory required, we can reduce the cost of poor quality, loads of different things. So we've looked at them all, and it comes up to a very large number if we do this. So we're very much incentivized to do it. So now I thought I would just talk about a few projects that I've been involved with, and it just gives you some idea how we can actually get those improvements. So this is one, and it's actually very interesting because it was a project with GE, General Electric in the UK, with University of Cranfield, a university there, and Lanner, which is a simulation software company. And what they did was they used Lanner's discrete event simulation to be a digital twin. So it looks at how production is going along. And so there's a simulation going on all the time. And then we used, this is a very inexpensive solution. We use Kinect, which is the thing that Microsoft does for the gaming platforms, so not very expensive. And we used that to see what was going on in the plant. So it will constantly give real-time information into the discrete event simulation digital twin. And then it will look through and it says, okay, given that, am I going to have any delays in delivering my productivity? Or maybe if there's a new order come in, it can change it around. So it's constantly looking at what's going on in the plant and adapting the production plans and the machine commands accordingly. So within GE, it gave a corporate prize for this application. They've now decided to roll it out across GE. And as I said, it is a very inexpensive solution and something that everyone can take out. Of course, there's other ways of getting manufacturing productivity improvements. So this is an example of using sensors, industrial Internet of Things, and augmented reality to be able to have a look at what's going on in the plant. So the maintenance engineer can pick this up, go on and have a look, and oh gosh, we've got a problem there, and he can see it, and he can also see what the problem is and pull up perhaps the drawings for that machine and decide how to fix it then and there. This one is again using the discrete event simulation and looking at the production flow and also their virtual reality. And one of the nice things, going back. One of the nice things is that the whole factory can work together with this simulation and decide how they want to change production, how they might change shift patterns, etc. Also going on with the use of simulation and visualization to reduce time from design to production. You can increase the quality and reduce the cost. The picture here is a project about making garments virtually. So before a garment is ever made, this project looked at coming up with a way of figuring out how a cloth would fall, exactly, depending on any cloth, what the weight is or whatever, what the look is, how it's going to fall, how light will shine on it, what exactly it's going to look like. It also included a company who do graphics for movies. So they've done a lot of graphics of garments and materials in movies, and so they know exactly how to present this. Sorry? Can you hear me now? Right. And so they can have a virtual avatar showing what a garment is going to look like exactly on your body using your body scanner. So someone can decide to buy this garment before it's ever made. So they say, yep, I want that, but I want it in velvet, please, in size 12. And they can buy it. So not only does it help in terms of cost of production, but it also makes a very different business model. It really engages and changes the way they do their whole business. Of course, you can also use simulation and visualization for designing Formula One cars and automotive. And in this one, looking at using it to help teams work together to design products and production facilities. And it can also help with training. So we talked about skills training as an issue, and actually you can use 4IR tools with training. So this is these two projects were with Airbus, and they wanted to develop some tools that they could use to train their engineers. And the one on the right is actually training them to install seats into an aircraft. So going back to the industrial strategy, set 4 grand challenges: AI and data economy, the future of mobility, clean growth, and the aging society. Just a couple of things in terms about what they're going to do in terms of skills. So a new technical education system, money for skills, a new national retraining scheme, etc. And also looking at how to address productivity in those small SMEs that one of my colleagues talked about earlier. But they've also introduced some new funding for something called the Industrial Strategy Challenge Funds. So these are looking at industry-led challenges, powered by research, but very much business and academic collaboration. Last year, there were 6 were funded: medicines, manufacturing technology, robots for a safer world, which is actually looking at robots for extreme and hazardous environments. So mining, oil and gas, undersea, all those kind of areas, looking at how robotics will work. Batteries for clean and flexible energy storage, self-driving vehicles, manufacturing and materials of the future, which is really about composites for aerospace and automotive, and satellites and space technology. And then this, just 2 weeks ago, they announced 8 more. So there's prospering from the energy revolution, transforming construction, transforming food production from farm to fork, data to early diagnosis and precision medicine, healthy aging, audience of the future, which is all about augmented reality, etc., new generation services using for our innovation for services, and pioneer funding for quantum technologies. Now, the interesting thing is that all of those really do an awful lot in terms of supporting for our technologies. And so a lot of that funding will go into research into AI and data analytics, sensors and IoT, robotics, automation and autonomy, and immersive technologies like visual reality and augmented reality. But not only are we going to be focusing on developments and research in those areas, we're also going to look at how you use those technologies to solve real challenges, which is, I think, the most important thing, because it's great to have all those technologies, but you actually have to be able to use it. So it's looking at how we're going to use it to solve industrial productivity, competitiveness, how are we going to use it to solve sustainability in energy and construction, mobility, drones and autonomous vehicles, etc. How are we going to use it for efficient agriculture, precision farming, that sort of thing, and healthcare? So there's an awful lot of funding that's going into all of those technologies and looking at those applications. The UK is a world leader in terms of research. Our universities are very well thought of, and we definitely have a great background in research. We're also very good inventors. We invented television, jet engine, the lithium-ion battery. But you know what? Not very many of those things get manufactured in the UK anymore, because we're not very good at taking those and keeping them and really moving forward with them. I've got some information here about AI. We're seen as a thought leader in artificial intelligence. We've got the second in the world in terms of influence of academic publications. And a venture capital company looked at AI startups in Europe and found that UK had over 200, compared to 81 in Germany, 50 in the Nordic countries, 50 in France, and under 30 in the Benelux. And I don't know about Israel. Didn't see that, so it might be more, because it's 600. So Israel could be more than 200. And we're putting, as we see, we're putting significant investment in continuing our preeminence in these areas. So we're going to continue to lead the IP development, but we need to make sure that we avoid the issues with the television and the lithium-ion battery, and that we actually continue to make sure that we're involved with the commercialization. I put down there a point where, we have some really great AI startups. So Google purchased one, Microsoft purchased one, Twitter, and Apple. Now, I'm not saying they're not doing things in the UK, because they probably are, but we've kind of lost control of them. So I think there's a real opportunity here to do some joint development of this IP. So we've got a lot of really interesting IP. We need to work with people who have the problems to use that IP. And from what I heard this morning, I think that there's an awful lot of opportunity within in Brazil to find application developers and users for that. And also, as I mentioned, the catapults in the universities, the great resource, and a lot of foreign companies actually come into the UK, situate themselves right next to the catapults, so they can identify and they can use those resources to help themselves. So I think there's a lot of opportunities for us working together. And please do come and see me or my colleagues at the British Consulate if you want to get in touch.